everybody. Hi, it's Becky from PowerToolsWithThread.com. That's my blog. A couple of videos ago, I had mentioned that it was long arm season because it's cold, and I had a quilt rack right over here my husband made for me that was piled high with tops, or flimsies as they can be called, and they needed to get done. That prompted a whole bunch of, I want to see your long arm, I want to see tutorials on it and whatnot. And I have been thinking about this kind of video for a long time and haven't done it, but I want to get this out there about the long arm that I have. So first of all, the quilt that is fixing to go on the long arm is this one. And this is a panel that I got. I can't remember the name of it, honestly. And I think I got it at that quilt store that's up in Oregon. I had seen a video that Anna did from Quilt Roadies, and it happened to be hanging on the wall. She was showing the inside of a quilt shop. And I went and got it. And then I found the additional fabric for it with the NASA and all that on Etsy. So I'm not entirely sure it's in print. Matter of fact, the quilt shop did not have this. I think I found it at Michaels.com. Michaels, the store online. So they had it. But anyway. And then the backing I have for it is this. It goes, this is part of the line. I got this. And then a coinky dink. The pattern that I used is actually called Spaceman. And here it is. It's a Villa Rosa Designs pattern called Spaceman. I used my embroidery machine, and I initialed C. King right here on the chest of the astronaut, and that is that would be my grandson's name, my oldest grandson. So this is going on the long arm as soon as this video is finished. I began my long arm journey back in 2014 at the Houston Quilt Festival, and I knew at the time I did not have the space for a long arm on a frame. So I happened to be at the Sewing Machines Plus booth. They are out of California. And this is long before All Brands and I became acquainted. All Brands is based out of Louisiana. I know there are a couple of other All Brands around the country, but the All Brands that I always talk about is based out of Louisiana, and they've got stores in Louisiana and Texas. So it was several years before they actually bought the Creative Sewing Center in San Antonio, which is where I became acquainted with All Brands. Okay, so All Brands was not in the picture, which is now, I say that if you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. But I say that because right now that's where I buy all of my machines. I'm a huge fan of Brother. They are my brother dealer. They are my dealer. So this journey of mine began before I knew All Brands even existed. Okay, so I was at the Sewing Machines Plus booth at the Houston Quilt Festival, and I did not have room for a long arm, and the sales lady was very, very nice, and I was intrigued by a sit-down machine. And if you are unfamiliar with long arms, they come in either, you can get one that's on a frame and it rolls back and forth. The head actually rolls back and forth on what's called a carriage. Or you can get a sit-down model, which is like the Sweet 16, and the head stays in one spot. You have a long, deep harp to be able to move a lot of fabric around, and you can maneuver the fabric yourself on the table while the machine stitches. And I was unaware at the time of the concept of stitch regulation. No clue. I'm one of those people, and I'm sure it's an expensive problem, but I'm like, well, how hard can it be? So I went ahead and I bought this sit-down machine. It was a Tin Lizzie, and Tin Lizzie is one of the original long arm makers in the United States, and they went out of business several years ago. And but they started in like the early 1900s or 1920s or something way back. There's all kinds of information out on the internet about the Tin Lizzie model of machine. I like the machine because it is a heavy steel case. This thing is a workhorse, and it worked fabulously. The thing about it that didn't work fabulous was me. The question from the salesperson should have been, can you draw? Do you have an inclination to draw? And my response would have been absolutely not. That is not me. I do not have, I'm left-brained. I don't draw. I don't have an artistic bent to what I do. I wish that question had been asked, because the response then should have been, then this is not the right machine for you. Because I struggled with that machine. Even with using a pounce and stencils and all of that, I got into all that. I have all that stuff, right? I couldn't even follow the lines on a stencil. And I tried and I tried and I tried, and I created a mess, a total mess. So I sold that particular machine, and my Longarm purchases have been based on budget, because while I'm a firm believer of DIY, I do like to finish my quilting projects myself. I'm a firm believer in that if I get the machine, eventually it's going to pay for itself, and what I otherwise would have paid a Longarmer to do it. And this was even before they had come out with those frames that are small enough for you to put on, like my Brother PQ 1500, that only would give you this much throat space. But now they have those machines, and now they have mid-arm, what they call mid-arm machines, that have a throat space or a heart space that's about so big. And you can roll that around, and you got 6 feet, and it would have worked fine. I was ahead of that time when I was in my search. So what I came across was the King Quilter Special Edition by Sewing Machines Plus. I had purchased from them before. I had a good experience. The King Quilter Special Edition, again, is made by Tin Lizzy. And Tin Lizzy, before they went out of business, had done a deal with Sewing Machines Plus. So they put their, Sewing Machines Plus put their logo on the Tin Lizzy, and it says King Quilter Special Edition. If you peel it all back, it's an 18-inch machine. It's quite big. It's very heavy. If you peel all the labels off and everything, it's a Tin Lizzy, down to every bit of it. And knowing what I knew now, I purchased a quilt butler to go on it, and that is made by Quilt EZ is the name of the company. And then they make a couple of different computer robotic systems to go on virtually any long arm. If you have a long arm that runs on a frame that can be computerized or can get stitch regulation put on it. So, that was another thing with the sit down machine. I could not add a stitch regulator. It did not have the brain in it to be able to do that. It didn't have one of those little screens. This thing was a no computer, bare bones sewing machines, just up and down. That's all the needle did, and everything was up to me. I take that back. The only computer part to it was auto needle down. That was it. I could tell it stop with the needle up or stop with the needle down. That was it. Everything else was done by the foot pedal. So when I got the long arm for the frame, I decided I was going to move my sewing goodies out of the room that I was in and into a remodeled back patio, and I was ready to buy a long arm frame, a long arm with a frame. So I got the quilt butler, again, based on budget. If my quilting is going to pay for itself, because I didn't know what I was doing, you guys. I had no clue. And I know, I think sometimes people buy long arms when they've seen it. Maybe they've been to a store and they tested it. And I did that. And I thought, well, I just need more practice than what I had been given, than the time for my little class. I need more practice. And then I'll get it. And then it'll be right. Well, no. No, not only can I not draw or follow a pounce line, I can't follow a pantograph either. But I was bound and determined. I thought surely, because I keep seeing all these videos that say, if you just do it, one day it'll click and you'll just keep going. Y'all, I bought cheater cloth. The only thing I never bought were the boards that you lay on the back of the table, and you stick a wooden stylus down in that thing and let that stylus run that. That's the only way I could work from the back of the machine. I know my limitations now. But these are the progressive steps I took to get to where I am today. So again, as I've said twice already, because of budget, I went with the King Quilter Special Edition and the Quilt Butler from Sewing Machines Plus. Now they no longer offer that machine, and I don't think they offer that setup anymore. So that's why I am making the video now as opposed to a couple of years ago. I had zero training on this thing. None. When I purchased the machine, there are a couple of videos from Quilt Easy. I did watch those videos. You could call the company, you could email the company. So let's not get confused. There is my entire setup. I have a Grace Phoenix frame. I have the King Quilter Special Edition from Sewing Machines Plus. I purchased the Quilt Butler as a package deal through Sewing Machines Plus, but the support for the robotics is from Quilt Easy, the company Quilt Easy who make the Quilt Butler. Sewing Machines Plus cannot provide support for the tablet. They can only provide support for the machine. Back then, I don't know what it's like now. I need a drink of coffee. Hold on. Again, I'm one of those jump in with both feet. I know computers. It's an Android tablet. It's running on a Linux operating system. I can figure this out. I understand that. When you turn on that machine, five little penguins pop up. That is the logo for Linux. So it's not running Windows. It's not running Android. It is a Linux-based operating system functioning on an Android tablet. So this thing's got all kinds of stuff all over it that's making it work. I watched, I searched, I looked, I Facebook, everything. Found mistakes in the manual and notified the company. I did everything. I heavy dove headfirst into the Quilt Butler and trying to figure out how it worked. I could not even figure out how to make nested rows because the directions they give in the book are not, I'm not going to say they're wrong, I'm going to say they're incomplete. I could never get it to work. Never. And you guys, I'm smart. I'm a smart girl. You know, I did IT cybersecurity for the Department of Defense. I know tech manuals. I know computers. I know these things. Why couldn't I get it to work? I even went so far as to seek out the dealer for the Quilt Butler at the 2018 Houston Quilt Festival. 2019, I think it was. I went to the Houston Quilt Festival, bound and determined to seek out the Quilt Butler dealer, because I'd seen them there before. They always have a booth, and asked them. Now, the lady who was working there, who was a dealer at the booth at the time, is Kim Stotzenberg. Kim Stotzenberg has a YouTube channel where she shows how to use the Quilt Butler. She's got one on her machine. I've watched her videos over and over and over. She's very good at demoing. She too, to me, leaves out steps that need to be done because I think sometimes when you're doing a tutorial, the instructor, it's inherent to the instructor what they're talking about, that, well, of course, duh, this is what you would do. But so they don't say it. And they don't mean to leave it out. It's just something they don't think about. I searched out, sought out Kim Stotzenberg at the festival, and I said, I cannot figure out how to nest these rows, and I feel like an idiot. She said, yeah, that's kind of hard, and here's a card, here's my channel, you can watch that. Well, sure enough, I watched it, and there was a step that was missing in her video. I'm not slamming her. I watch her all the time, over and over, to learn how to do the things that I can do now on that butler. I had you, viewers, reach out to me. Can I help? I have one of these. I use it all day, every day. Pam, thank you. And Pam and she wrote step by step by step for me down in an email, and I got it. And I figured out how to do nested rows. But I even had a lady who was at the festival that year, not Kim, but the person she was with, who said, I can't figure that out either, and here's what I do. I make little notes on a notepad, and I keep the numbers next to me so I know how far apart that I want to make those rows as I nest them up closer together to each other. That's not what that's designed for. So that's how I got by until I had help that could teach me how to do this. Okay, so let's fast forward to Quilt Easy got a new management. They got new management. And today, you don't get support from Quilt Easy unless you pay for it. So I paid $5,000 for this robotic, the butler, and I don't get any support for it. And even their frequently asked questions page, you can go to their site and you can look at their frequently asked questions. And as soon as you click, oh, that's my question, and you click it and you want an answer, you're not authorized to access this. You have to pay them for that. Not a fan, okay? Not a fan of that at all. I think the more you share your knowledge with your viewers, the more you share your knowledge with your customers, the better, bigger customer base you're going to have. Today, when people ask me, what kind of long arm should I get? I tell them, you get a long arm where you can find the most videos out on YouTube, because most quilters are visual learners. Very few of you want to sit and stare at a manual. You'll look at a manual, you'll kind of get an idea about it, and then you'll go to the video and you'll look at it, and then they'll click and you'll go, okay, I think I can do this now. That's generally how most people learn. The lion's share of people, and the Air Force taught me this, they teach you this, the lion's share of people out there are visual learners, especially quilters. Oh, especially stitchers, we'll say that. When you cannot get an answer to your question, that's, to me, that's not the way I'm comfortable with. And so people ask me, what kind of long arm should I get? Again, my answer is go out on YouTube and type in long arm tutorials and find the one that's got the most. The thing about Quilt Easy and the Quilt Butler is that is a hybrid robotic tablet. It is designed to go on any long arm machine that can accept robotics. If the long arm machine has that little tiny screen that comes with it, that's mounted on the front when you first get the thing, you can add robotics to it. And they have a whole list of all the machines that will work with it. That they will tell you. The thing with other long arm systems, and of course, much more expensive long arm systems, is that there are long arms that come with tablets that are specific to that particular machine brand. So there's a partnership between the robotics and the long arm. There's a partnership there. And they keep their tablets updated and they provide support. That's a huge thing for big long arm companies like APQS or Handy Quilter, those kind of things, because they provide the Kaniques, they provide, which is Grace, support for that, because it's kind of a bundle thing. Whereas mine was kind of a jumbled, we'll use this machine and that tablet and put it together and see how it works. And we'll make it work like that. That, because I bought it so long ago. But there's a price point difference in that. That is probably the biggest reason, the two big reasons I do not talk a lot about my Longarm and my setup is because it's not made anymore. There's little to no support for it. And finding tutorials about how to use it is near impossible, and I'm not that good at it. I stumble, it takes me forever. I mean, if I'm gonna do a straight pantograph on this, that's great. And I can do that pretty easily, no problem, right? I just finished that quilt for the lady who had given me all of those squares she and her sister had done. Should have been a quilt as you go. And I turned it into a quilt, and the sashing was all kind of wonky, and I wanted to do clamshells in it to make orange peels, and it took me forever. I got it done, and I figured out how to use the point-to-point feature in the Butler, which is pretty advanced, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that. I'm getting better and better with being able to use the machine, but I'm not an instructor on it. I am certain I am only using part of what it can do, and I'm pretty sure that part that I can do, I'm not doing it right. So that said, I'm just throwing this out there, you guys. And you know, I get criticisms all the time. Well, if you don't know what you're talking about, then don't put it on YouTube. Well, I'm doing this because I'm not alone. I am not alone in this. There were thousands of people who bought this system. And if they knew what they were doing, that's great. And if they got support for it back in the day, that's great. But if you buy it now, and I'm not saying not to, I'm not saying not to do that, but you need to be prepared to pay for the support in order to be able to get answers to your questions. The tablet does its job phenomenally. So one thing I do love about the Quilt Butler and that software that's made by QuiltEZ is it has a do not quilt here feature. And if you're in the market for a Longarm, I recommend that you look for that. And by do not quilt here, what I mean is, let's say you've got a quilt and it's got squares that have applique in them, or maybe something else, that lettering or something that you don't want to run a pantograph over. Well, I can make a little box around that particular part and tell the machine, stop at this edge when you get to it, jump over that, and then keep going, so that it quilts all around that. What you can do with the Quilt Butler is phenomenal. It has incredible stuff. I'm able to import designs. I buy my designs from like Urban Elements or Intelligent Quilting, all kinds of different places. I found a solar system digitized design on Etsy yesterday, and that's what I'm going to use on this quilt right here. And I was able to save it to a USB from my computer and take it over there because I've got 3 USB ports on that thing. It's great. It works great. I just don't know, how to provide support for it. I know that's not my job, but I am hesitant to recommend to you guys to go get one of these because I don't want you, if I say, oh yeah, people say, what kind of scan and cut should I get? I'll tell you. What kind of embroidery machine should I get? And it's usually get the most machine you can within your budget, get one that has a technician nearby. Get one that has at least a 6x10 hoop. I used to say 5x7. I'm kind of moving that up because of the kind of designs I like to make. And people want to make what I make. And then make sure it takes a USB. So I don't care what brand, but those would be my minimum requirements if you're going to buy an embroidery machine. Well, when it comes to the Longarm, I still think that you can get great machines like Sewing Machines Plus now. They have the new King Quilter 2. And if you know your Longarms and you take a look at that thing, you're going to go, that sure looks like another national brand that I'm familiar with. So it's a phenomenal machine. And then what kind of tablet are they offering with it? What kind of support are you going to get once you buy the tablet? I don't think that they offer a tablet from QuiltEZ any longer. Maybe their partnership or their contract with them ended. I don't know. Maybe you can. I don't know. This is not a video that's bashing Sewing Machines Plus. I'm not bashing Quilt Easy. This is just from me to you, talking to you about my long arm and why I don't do a whole lot of videos on my long arm. That said, it is long army season. So because of all the requests, and I mean, you guys, I get tons of requests. Show me how you use this, because you have the system too. So this video today is primarily to just let you guys know, if you want to get something, just kind of think about it. Get something that fits your budget. Get something that you have support. Get something that can be upgraded. Get something that takes a USB, and enjoy the process, okay? So, all right, that's it. We'll talk to you soon. Go sew something. Bye.